Hello guys and welcome back to a new episode of Italian Politician of the Week. I am Ipernick, the great is silent, and today we are talking about Beppe Grillo, comedian, actor, influencer, blogger, politician and founder of the Five Star Movement, one of the major parties in Italy and at one point the biggest populist party in Europe. The story I'm about to tell you is full of twists and turns, but this is also a tragic tale of political degradation, institutional mistrust and decay of morals. Before we begin, remember to like and subscribe, and to sign up to my Discord channel and my subscribe star. If you want to support the channel, I do these videos based on the polls in the community section, so if you want to take part in my decision-making process, make sure to keep notifications on, so you can find out when I upload a new video and vote every week for new episodes. Without further ado, let's begin with the origin story of Beppe Grillo. Grillo was born in 1948 in Genoa. His career in entertainment began in the late 70s and early 80s, when he was discovered by the famous TV host Pippo Bauduo. Grillo's monologues and skits on TV were political from the very beginning, and people enjoyed watching him because he was not afraid to be offensive and represented the average Italian with his down-to-earth and sincere rhetoric. His specialty was political satire. It stood out for being very challenging and spicy to say the least. In 1986, he was banned from public channels for making this joke at the expense of Prime Minister Bettino Craxi and his deputy Martelli. The joke went like this. At the big dinner in China, all the socialists were there with the delegation and they were having a good meal. At some point, Martelli came up with one of his questions. He called Craxi and asked, "China has billions of inhabitants and they are all socialists, right?" And Craxi replied, "Yes, why?" But then Martelli responded, "If they are all socialists, who do they steal from?" Thankfully for him, Berlusconi's business was booming at the time, and so he remained very present in Italian media. During the 90s, he also began doing more live shows, and there he grew more accustomed to speaking to big live crowds. In 2005, alongside his partner Casaleggio, Grillo made a blog called beppegrillo.it, where he, and later some other authors, ranted about politics and anything else that came to mind. The website grew in popularity extremely fast and became one of the most visited sites on the Italian internet. beppegrillo.it quickly gained an audience of people who mistrusted the institutions and would go along with anything Grillo said. With the help of Casaleggio, the site became a platform full of fake news where conspiracy theorists thrived. From 2007 onwards, Grillo started doing political rallies, the first one being Vaffa Day, roughly translated to Fuck You Day, which had about 5,000 people showing up to manifest their disregard to the political establishment. It will be in these live shows that Grillo pulled many questionable people in the spotlight, from anti-vaxxers to proto-scientists to wannabe philosophers, and demagogues, introducing them as those who speak the truth, unlike the ministers and parliamentarians which the people had not elected directly. Eventually this turned into the Five Star Movement in 2012, its first electoral appearance being at the Sicilian regional election, where they won about 18% of the votes, and later at the national election, where they won 20%. They only got about 10% of the seats due to the electoral system at the time, which penalized the parties without coalitions, but it was still enough to break the almost two-party system which had come to be during the Berlusconi era. We will look at the rest of the party's history later after 2013. First, let's have a look at Grillo's ideology. Grillo's ideology relies on the basis of honesty. Essentially, if you have a public life, you must have a completely clean track record, because a society can only work if the people who run it are 100% honest, average people. This position leaves a lot of room for hypocrisy, however, because whenever anyone from the Five Star Movement is accused of any crime whatsoever, they appeal to the principle of innocent until proven guilty. But then, if anyone else is put in a similar situation, Grillo Grillo's party is the first to demand their designation. Grillo is no exception to this display of hypocrisy. Being a wealthy man himself, he has benefited from Berlusconi's reforms when buying new property and luxury cars. In 2013, a journalist from the newspaper Libero even reported that 2 of Grillo's villas are framed in the wrong cadastral categories, allowing him to save on taxation. In defense of Grillo's principles though, he did acknowledge his dirty track record, and it is for that very reason that he never run for office directly. Tax evasion, however, is far from his worst crime. In December 1981, Grillo was on vacation with 3 friends and the 9-year-old son of 2 of them. While driving home in the middle of the night, Grillo lost control of the car while driving over an ice pack. He jumped off the car right before it fell in a 80-meter deep hole. The kid and his parents died in impact. Only one of his friends survived. Grillo was accused of manslaughter and the trial lasted 5 years. Eventually was found innocent of all charges, despite his actions being confirmed by multiple sources, him included. Given the circumstances, the fact that he has the guts to go out of his way and criticize other people for way less serious crimes is quite despicable. Quick intermission just to elaborate further on what I just said. Basically, Grillo's logic towards the justice system is a little bit weird. Essentially, if you are accused of a crime, in his eyes, regardless on what the sentence is gonna be at the end of the trial, you are guilty of that crime. So if, for example, I don't know, Berlusconi is accused of corruption and his sentence is negative, then according to Grillo is corrupt regardless. If you apply that logic to himself, he is a murderer anyways. So, you see the hypocrisy here? Back to the video. Another example of hypocrisy can be seen on his internet activity. He took advantage of the legislative void the internet was characterized with at the time to do essentially whatever he wanted, from spreading fake news to stating straight lies about politicians and parliamentary activity, which eventually snowballed into real conspiracy theories in the field of science, law and politics. Grillo grew rich and successful by taking advantage of people's mistrust towards the powerful and fueled it by giving them fake news that turned people angry and radicalized them to dangerous levels. If the political environment in Italy is so hostile compared to 10 or 15 years ago, it is mostly because of the trend Grillo started. Today it is the norm to get people riled up over nonsense, but back then it was like giving people opium and they loved it. Today, the Five-Star Movement is nothing but a shadow of its former self. What started as an anti-establishment party that spread fake news became the most wishy-washy center-left party imaginable. This transformation can be attributed to Grillo's involvement being decreased over time. With the rise in popularity of people like Di Maio and Conte, Grillo's takes became unwanted and even unfavored. His takes have become a lot wilder and less relatable in many ways, like when his son Ciro was accused of raping a girl in his villa in Sardinia alongside 4 other guys. Grillo lost a lot of dignity in an attempt to protect his son and interfere with the law. Last year, he published a video saying that his son is clearly not a rapist because he is not in jail yet, completely ignoring the fact that the trials were still going on and that there were multiple incriminating videos which portrayed Ciro in a not very good light. He also accused the girl of lying about it for attention, claiming that she enjoyed it and that if she really was raped, then she would have reported it immediately after, rather than 8 days later. This statement was received very poorly by the public opinion, because it takes months, if not years, for a woman to assemble the courage to report such violation to the police. So 8 days is already impressive. To add insult to injury, Grillo also hired a private investigator to find out more about the girl's private life, probably to demonstrate that she was a whore, and therefore she could not have been abused by his son. You would be pleased to hear that whatever the investigator will find about the girl cannot be used in court against her, and if anything, this could put Grillo and his family in a lot more trouble. The last drop, however, came in February 2021, when Grillo claimed Draghi to be a good man, despite him being the personification of the institutions he had fought against for decades. The rest of the party has finally caught up with everyone anyone else when it comes to seeing through Grillo's incoherence and hypocrisy. Grillo remains the movement's warranteer, but his influence is just a fraction of what it used to be, and as his world and legacy breaks apart around him, all he can do is yell and cuss in an attempt to reconquer his former glory. But this time he has no one listening. His creation has eclipsed him, and so have his former pupils, and while the damage he has caused on the Italian political environment shows no sign to heal anytime soon, its origin will inevitably be forgotten and abandoned to its lonely fate.
Beppe, oh dear Beppe, stars need votes, now quick be snappy. Populism will make you sappy, now make the party 5-star happy. Need to get those new Poltrons, go and bail that son of yours, yell your throat until it soars. We want higher polling scores. Don't trust doctors, read the West, vote for morons, who even cares? Stay at home on your dear chairs, see life through Twitter threads. Love your work, love the pain, forget Italy as your reign. There is nothing for you to gain, all your dreams are down the drain. Come on Beppe, join the crew, you remember the good times too. Your friend Conte gave you a clue, time to go, yes you are through. Your time came in after ages, don't you see all the smiling faces? See the likes, enjoy your ages, your story has run out of pages.